Chosen one, stop what you are doing for a moment. Be still. Because this message did not reach you by accident. Out of millions of voices, distractions and endless noise, somehow you are here, listening to these words at this exact moment. And deep inside your spirit, something is already trembling. Something ancient, something holy. Something heaven has been trying to awaken inside of you for a very long time. This is not entertainment. This is an assignment. And if your soul has been restless lately, if you have felt separated from people, misunderstood, attacked without reason, emotionally exhausted, spiritually drained, then listen carefully, because what you thought was punishment was actually preparation. Chosen one, God has been isolating you because your next assignment cannot be carried by the version of you that still needed approval from the world. You have cried in silence. You have fought battles nobody saw. You smiled while your spirit was bleeding. You kept showing up while your heart was collapsing behind closed doors, and heaven saw every single moment, every tear, every sleepless night, every betrayal, every time you almost gave up but somehow found the strength to keep breathing. God saw it all, and now the time has come for you to understand why it happened. Chosen one, there is something on your life that terrifies darkness. That is why the attacks became so personal. Notice how the enemy did not only attack your finances, he attacked your peace, he attacked your confidence, he attacked your identity, because Satan knows something you have not fully realized yet. You were never ordinary. You carry a spiritual authority that cannot be explained by human logic. There is a calling over your life that existed before people misunderstood you, before they abandoned you, before they doubted you. Before you were born, heaven already marked your name. And the enemy has spent years trying to distract you from this assignment, through fear, through heartbreak, through delay, through confusion. But listen carefully, chosen one, the delay did not cancel the destiny. God is saying, you survived because I refused to let you break. Right now there are some of you listening to this message while secretly feeling exhausted with life. You are tired of pretending to be strong, tired of carrying everybody else while the nobody carries you, tired of praying and waiting and wondering when things will finally change. But hear this clearly. The reason your season has been so heavy is because your spirit is standing at the edge of transformation, and transformation is never comfortable. Before oil becomes fire, it must be crushed. Before gold becomes pure, it must enter the furnace. Before Jesus stepped into purpose, he entered the wilderness. So why did you think your calling would come without spiritual warfare? Chosen one, the warfare around you is proof that something valuable is inside you. Normal people do not attract this level of attack. The enemy attacks potential. The enemy attacks purpose. The enemy attacks people carrying divine assignments. And whether you realize it or not, you have entered a season where God is calling you higher. But higher levels require deeper surrender. This is why certain people disappeared from your life. This is why some relationships suddenly became cold. This is why you felt disconnected from places where you once felt comfortable. God is removing distractions before revealing direction. Because where he is taking you, everybody cannot go. Some people were assignments, some were lessons, some were tests, but very few were truly meant to walk beside you into your next season. And that truth hurts. Because chosen one, your heart is different. You love deeply. You forgive deeply. You care deeply. Even after betrayal, part of you still hopes people will change. But God is saying, stop trying to save people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are losing energy fighting battles heaven never assigned to you. This next season requires focus. It requires discipline. It requires spiritual clarity. Because your assignment is bigger than emotions. There are people connected to your obedience that you have not even met yet. There are souls waiting for your voice. There are broken people who will survive because you refuse to quit. Do you understand how serious this is? The enemy wanted you depressed because your joy carries healing. The enemy wanted you isolated because your presence carries light. The enemy wanted you silent because your voice carries power. Chosen one, this is not the time to shrink yourself anymore. This is the time to awaken. Stop doubting what God already confirmed inside. I'd like your spirit. Stop apologizing for being different. Stop asking permission to become who heaven created you to be. You were not sent here to blend in with darkness. You were sent here to expose it. And yes, that calling comes with loneliness. It comes with misunderstanding. It comes with seasons where nobody understands the burden you carry. Even Jesus was rejected by people who stood close to him. So why are you shocked that some people walked away from you? Not everybody can recognize anointed people while they are still becoming. Sometimes people only recognize the value of your presence after your absence. But chosen one, stop grieving people who abandoned what God was protecting. Because some exits were divine, some separations were mercy, some heartbreaks were heaven removing chains you were too emotionally attached to break yourself. And now God is rebuilding you, not the fake version, not the people-pleasing version, not the broken version that tolerated disrespect just to avoid being alone. God is rebuilding the real you, the spiritually dangerous version, the healed version, the fearless version, the version of you that finally understands. Your worth comes from heaven, not from human validation. And listen carefully, this next part is important. The assignment on your life is not only about success, it is about obedience. Many people want blessings, few people want transformation. Many people want miracles, few people want surrender. But God is calling you into a deeper relationship now, not religion, relationship. He wants your attention again, because somewhere along the pain, somewhere along the disappointments, somewhere along the endless battles, your spirit became exhausted. And maybe you stopped praying like you used to. Maybe you stopped believing like you used to. Maybe you started wondering if God had forgotten you. But chosen one, if God forgot you, you would not still be standing. The fact that you survived what should have destroyed you is proof that heaven has been carrying you this entire time. You should have broken. You should have collapsed. You should have lost your mind after everything you endured. But somehow, you are still here. That is not luck, that is grace. And now heaven is calling you back to the assignment, not tomorrow, now. Stop waiting for perfect condition. Stop waiting for everybody to believe in you. Stop waiting to feel fully ready. Moses felt unqualified. David felt overlooked. Jeremiah felt too young. Yet God still called them. Because God does not choose people based on perfection. He chooses based on purpose. And your purpose is alive, even after the attacks, even after the betrayals, even after the delays. Your assignment still stands. Chosen one, hear this with your spirit. The next chapter of your life will require courage you have never used before, because God is about to place you in rooms you once prayed for. He is about to reveal gifts inside you that have been hidden under pain. He is about to restore your confidence, restore your peace, restore your fire. But you must stop carrying the old version of yourself into the new season. The fear must go. The self-doubt must go. The addiction to toxic people must go. The need for approval must go. Because where God is taking you, hesitation will become a burden. This is your awakening season. The season where you finally stop running from your calling. The season where you stop dimming your light. The season where you understand that your N was not meaningless. It was preparation for the assignment. And one day, you will look back at this season and realize something powerful. The betrayal pushed you toward purpose. The loneliness pushed you toward God. The suffering built spiritual strength inside you. The delays built endurance. The attacks built discernment. Everything was shaping you. Everything. Chosen one, heaven is speaking to you right now, not through fear, not through shame, but through divine awakening. This is your moment to rise again. This is your moment to reclaim your spiritual authority. This is your moment to stop surviving and finally start walking in purpose. So breathe deeply, lift your head, and remember who you are. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not defeated. You are chosen, and your assignment still matters. If this message touched your spirit type, I accept my assignment. And never forget this, chosen one. The same God who protected you in the dark is about to reveal you in the light. Chosen one, what you thought was punishment was actually preparation. And that truth is difficult to accept when you are the one walking through the fire, because from your perspective, it felt like abandonment. It felt like heaven went silent while your life became heavier and heavier. There were nights you prayed with tears running down your face, asking God why everything around you seemed to be falling apart. You watched people leave. You watched doors close. You watched situations collapse that you thought would last forever. And deep inside, part of you started wondering if you had done something wrong. But chosen one, hear this carefully. God will often separate you before he elevates you. The isolation was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. There are some battles that cannot be fought with crowds around you. There are some spiritual transformations that only happen in lonely places. That is why your season became so quiet. God removed the noise because your spirit needed to hear him clearly again. The world had too much access to your attention. Too many opinions, too many distractions, too many people pulling on your energy while your soul slowly became exhausted. And heaven knew that if he did not pull you away, you would continue shrinking yourself just to keep other people comfortable. So God allowed the separation. He allowed the discomfort. He allowed the wilderness season because there was a stronger version of you waiting to be born inside the pain. Chosen one, the reason this season hurt so deeply is because God was not only changing your circumstances, he was changing your identity. The old version of you could not carry the assignment attached to your destiny. The fearful version had to die. The insecure version had to break. The version of you addicted to human validation had to be stripped away. And that process feels painful because flesh resists transformation. Your spirit was trying to rise while your emotions were trying to hold on to what was familiar. But familiar things are not always healthy things. Some people you begged God to keep in your life were actually delaying your purpose. Some relationships were draining the oil from your spirit. Some environments were suffocating your growth. Yet because your heart is loyal, you kept trying to save connections that heaven already marked for release. But listen carefully now. Every betrayal taught you discernment. Every disappointment taught you dependence on God. Every lonely night built spiritual endurance inside you. The suffering was shaping your spirit in ways you could not see at the time. Because God does his deepest work in hidden places. Think about Joseph in the pit. Think about David in the wilderness. Think about Jesus fasting alone before stepping into his ministry. Isolation has always been part of divine preparation. Heaven separates those who are called because purpose requires clarity, and clarity is often born in silence. Chosen one, you were never losing everything. You were being repositioned. God was teaching you not to place your identity in people, money, titles, or temporary situations. He was teaching you to stand on him alone. Because if your peace depends on people staying, then people can control your emotional stability. But when your peace comes from God, even betrayal cannot destroy you. That is the strength heaven has been building inside you. A strength rooted in spiritual authority rather than emotional dependence. And yes, there were moments you almost gave up. Moments where you questioned your worth. Moments where you secretly wondered if your life would ever change. But the fact that you survived those moments proves something powerful about you. Is a grace covering your life that darkness cannot fully explain. You have been attacked because your future carries weight. The enemy does not waste energy on people who have no purpose. The warfare intensified because your spirit is awakening to who you truly are. So stop calling yourself broken when heaven calls you chosen. Stop calling yourself abandoned when God has been protecting you from environments that could not sustain your destiny. Stop mourning seasons that ended because some endings are answers to prayers you prayed in tears. And even now, while you listen to these words, heaven is rebuilding your confidence piece by piece. God is reminding you that your story is not over. The delays were not denial. The silence was not rejection. The pain was preparation for the assignment attached to your life. Chosen one day you will thank God for the season you once cried about. Because eventually you will realize that the isolation taught you how to hear his voice, the betrayal taught you discernment, and the suffering revealed the strength that was hidden inside you all along. Chosen one, The attacks against your life were never random. The enemy does not fight empty. SSLAs. He fights people carrying light, purpose, and spiritual authority. That is why your battles became so intense the moment you started getting closer to your calling. Notice how suddenly confusion entered your mind, fear increased. People began misunderstanding your intentions. Delays appeared in places where you once expected progress. It felt like invisible resistance followed you everywhere you went. And because you could not explain it logically, you started blaming yourself for everything that went wrong. But chosen one, what if the warfare around you is actually proof that heaven has marked your life for something greater? There is a reason you have always felt different from other people. A reason you could never fully fit into environments that celebrated darkness, gossip, manipulation, or fake love. Your spirit was rejecting what your soul could not comfortably live inside. Even when you tried to blend in, something inside you kept pulling away from the crowd. That is because God placed a calling on your life before you were even born. And whether you understood it or not, the enemy recognized that calling early. That is why your life has carried unusual battles. The enemy hoped that pain would make you forget who you are. He hoped betrayal would convince you to lower your standards. He hoped disappointment would silence your voice before you ever stepped into purpose. But listen carefully, chosen one, the fact that you survived proves that darkness could not stop what God ordained. You should have broken after some of the things you endured. Some people listening to this message have carried wounds they never spoke about publicly. You smiled in front of people while secretly fighting emotional battles inside your mind. You carried trauma while pretending to be strong for everyone around you. You survived rejection from people you truly loved. You survived seasons where nobody checked on you. Seasons where your prayers felt unanswered. Seasons where life became so heavy that even getting out of bed felt like a spiritual war. Yet somehow, through all the pain, something inside you kept pushing forward. That was not human strength alone. That was the hand of God preserving your life for an assignment the enemy could not destroy. Chosen one, understand this deeply. The enemy attacks identity before destiny, because if he can make you doubt you, ourself, he can delay your purpose. That is why so many chosen people battle insecurity, fear, overthinking, and emotional exhaustion. The enemy wants your focus trapped in survival mode so you never fully awaken to your authority. He wants you distracted by pain instead of focused on purpose. He wants you emotionally attached to people who keep draining your energy because distracted people rarely walk boldly into their calling. And maybe that explains why certain people disappeared from your life the moment you started changing spiritually. Not everybody can follow you into the next version of yourself. Some people were assigned to your past, not your future. And painful as it feels, separation is often part of spiritual elevation. God will remove people who are connected to confusion before he introduces people connected to clarity. Because your destiny cannot grow in environments constantly attacking your peace. The truth is, chosen one, your spirit has outgrown certain places, conversations, and relationships. What once entertained you now exhausts you. What once felt normal now feels spiritually heavy. That is not weakness. That is awakening. God is sharpening your discernment. Because your next season requires spiritual maturity. You cannot carry divine assignments while remaining emotionally tied to chaos, and that is why heaven has been teaching you the power of separation. Some nights you cried because you felt lonely, but heaven was actually protecting your spirit. Some doors closed because God saw danger you could not see. Some disappointments were not punishments, they were divine redirections, but because the process felt painful, you interpreted it as loss instead of protection. Yet one day you will realize that God removed certain people before they could destroy your peace completely. He ended certain seasons before they destroyed your future. He interrupted certain plans because your destiny was too valuable to be connected to the wrong environment. Chosen one, stop questioning your worth because people failed to recognize your value. Some people only appreciate light after they lose access to it. And the truth is, your presence carries something rare. You carry compassion in a cold world, loyalty in a selfish world, spiritual depth in a distracted world. That is why darkness reacts strongly to you. Your existence alone disrupts certain urges. Your spirit convicts people who are comfortable living without truth, and instead of changing themselves, some people attacked you because your light exposed what they wanted hidden. But hear this clearly. You are not called to shrink your spirit just to make broken people comfortable. God did not create you to live small. He created you to walk boldly in purpose. The attacks were never signs that you were forgotten. They were signs that your life carries importance in the spiritual realm. And now heaven is calling you to stop living beneath your identity. Stop doubting what God placed inside you. Stop minimizing your gifts. Stop apologizing for being different. Because chosen one, different is exactly what God called you to be. Chosen one, God is trying to pull you into a deeper relationship with Him, but the world keeps fighting for your attention. Every day there is noise, endless distractions, endless pressure, endless voices telling you who you should be, what you should chase, and how you should live. And slowly, without even realizing it, many chosen people begin drifting away from the presence of God while still appearing strong on the outside. You continue smiling, continue working, continue talking to people, but inside your spirit something feels empty, something feels disconnected. And maybe lately you have felt that emptiness more than ever before. Maybe you noticed your peace disappearing. Maybe you noticed your mind becoming heavier. Maybe you noticed yourself feeling emotionally drained even after resting. Chosen one, that exhaustion is not only physical, it is spiritual. Your soul was never designed to survive without connection to God. That is why no amount of validation, money, relationships, or temporary distractions can fully satisfy the emptiness inside you when your spirit is hungry. You can sit in crowded rooms and still feel lonely. You can achieve goals and still feel restless, because success without spiritual alignment still leaves the soul thirsty. And deep down, your spirit knows it was created for something eternal. But listen carefully now. God is not angry with you because you became tired. He understands the weight you have been carrying. He saw every disappointment that weakened your faith. He saw every betrayal that made your heart more guarded. He saw every prayer that seemed unanswered. And He knows we were moments when you started wondering if He was still listening at all. Some of you stopped praying the way you used to because pain made you emotionally numb. Some of you stopped expecting miracles because disappointment taught you to protect yourself from hope. And some of you secretly began building walls around your spirit because life kept hurting you in places nobody else could see. But chosen one, God is calling you back, not back to empty religion, not back to pretending, not back to routines without intimacy. He is calling you back to relationship, back to the secret place where your soul feels safe again, back to the place where His presence restores what the world drained out of you. Because the truth is, your spirit has been in survival mode for too long. You have been carrying emotional burdens that God never asked you to carry alone. You have been trying to heal yourself while silently bleeding inside. You have been fighting spiritual battles without staying connected to the very source of your strength. And heaven is saying, come closer, not because God wants to control you, but because He wants to heal you. Chosen one, there are wounds inside your heart that only the presence of God can touch. People tried to comfort you. Motivational words tried to inspire you. Temporary distractions tried to numb the pain. But none of it fully removed the heaviness. Because some wounds are spiritual. Some battles happen deep within the soul. And healing begins the moment you stop running from God and start resting in Him again. That is why the enemy works so hard to keep you distracted. Because distraction weakens spiritual awareness. The enemy does not always destroy people through obvious evil. Sometimes he simply keeps them too busy, too emotionally exhausted, too overwhelmed, and too distracted to hear the voice of God clearly. And slowly, without realizing it, their spirit becomes dry. But chosen one, your spirit is waking up again. That emptiness you feel is not proof that God abandoned you. It is proof that your soul is craving His presence again. Heaven is pulling on your heart because your next assignment requires deeper spiritual strength. You cannot walk into your purpose spiritually disconnected. You cannot carry divine assignments while feeding your soul with fear, negativity, and constant emotional chaos. God is preparing you for something greater, but preparation always begins with surrender. And surrender is difficult because it requires trust. It requires believing that God still has a plan even when life feels confusing. It requires believing that your delays are not permanent. It requires believing that your pain still has purpose. Chosen one, there are things God wants to reveal to you, but He cannot speak clearly while your attention belongs completely to the noise of the world. This is why isolation became necessary. This is why certain seasons felt lonely. Heaven was removing distractions so your spirit could hear again, and maybe now you finally understand why some relationships had to end, why certain environments started feeling heavy, why your soul no longer felt comfortable in places where you once belonged. Your spirit is evolving. God is stretching you beyond shallow living. You were not created just to survive day after day carrying hidden emptiness inside. You were created to walk with divine purpose, peace, and spiritual authority. But that only happens when your relationship with God becomes stronger than your attachment to the world. And hear this clearly, chosen one G. OD has not given up on you. Even during the seasons where you felt distant, He stayed close. Even during the nights you cried yourself to sleep, He was there. Even during the moments you doubted your worth, heaven still called you chosen. The reason you are still standing after everything you endured is because God never removed His hand from your life. Grace kept protecting you when your strength failed. Mercy kept carrying you when your faith became weak. And now heaven is inviting you into a new season. A season where your spirit becomes stronger than your fear. A season where your relationship with God becomes your foundation again. Because the assignment attached to your life cannot be fulfilled by a spiritually empty version of you. Chosen one, there comes a moment in every divine journey where God asks you to let go of the old version of yourself. And this is the part many people resist the most. Because even when the old version is wounded, fearful, exhausted, and spiritually drained, it still feels familiar. Pain can become familiar. Survival mode can become familiar. Carrying emotional weight every day can become familiar. And sometimes people cling to broken version NS of themselves simply because they no longer remember who they are without the pain. But chosen one, hear this clearly. God did not create you to spend your entire life surviving. He created you to rise. Yet rising requires release. You cannot carry fear into a season that requires faith. You cannot carry insecurity into a season where God is calling you to lead. You cannot carry emotional attachments to toxic environments while heaven is trying to elevate your spirit. And that is exactly why your current season feels uncomfortable. God is breaking chains you became emotionally attached to. He is tearing away identities that no longer align with your destiny. He is forcing you to confront wounds you tried to hide from for years, because the next level of your life cannot be entered by the version of you that still doubts your worth. Some of you listening right now still carry the voice of rejection inside your spirit. You still hear the words spoken over you by people who misunderstood you. You still remember moments where you felt abandoned, ignored, or unseen, and without realizing it, those moments slowly shaped how you see yourself. You began shrinking your light to average. Avoid criticism. You began silencing your voice to avoid rejection. You began tolerating disrespect because loneliness felt more terrifying than mistreatment. But chosen one, that version of you is dying now. God is waking up the real you, the strong you, the healed you, the spiritually awakened you. And yes, transformation feels painful because growth requires confrontation. God cannot heal what you continue pretending does not hurt. That is why certain emotions have been surfacing lately. That is why memories you thought were buried have suddenly returned to your mind. Heaven is exposing what needs healing before your next assignment begins, because unhealed pain has a way of sabotaging purpose. And God loves you too much to let your future be destroyed by wounds from your past. Chosen one, Stop seeing yourself through the eyes of people who failed to value you. Their rejection was never a reflection of your worth. Some people rejected you because your spirit carried conviction they were not ready to confront. Some people distanced themselves because your growth exposed their stagnation. And some people left simply because they were assigned to one chapter of your story, not the entire journey, but God remained. Even in the moments where you doubted yourself, heaven never changed its mind about you. Even when you felt weak, God still called you chosen. Even when you felt unqualified, heaven still saw purpose inside you. That is why you survived situations that should have destroyed your spirit. Grace kept carrying you forward even when your own strength disappeared. And now God is asking you to finally stop living like a wounded version of yourself when He already called you victorious. The enemy wants you trapped in your past because wounded people rarely walk boldly into destiny. If he can keep you replaying betrayal, replaying failure, replaying heartbreak, then he can keep your spirit chained to old seasons. But chosen one, your future is too important for you to stay emotionally imprisoned by what hurt you. God is calling you forward now, forward beyond fear, forward beyond shame, forward beyond the version of yourself that constantly seeks validation from people, because your value was never created by human approval. Your value was established by God long before anybody spoke your name. And hear this deeply, the next season of your life, I will require confidence rooted in heaven, not confidence rooted in circumstances, because circumstances change, people change, emotions change, but God's purpose over your life remains steady even in chaos. This is why your spirit has been feeling restless lately. Deep down, you know you can no longer remain the same person. You know there is more inside you, more strength, more wisdom, more authority, more purpose. But stepping into that version of yourself requires surrendering comfort. It requires walking away from environments that drain your spirit. It requires believing that God's vision for your life is greater than your fear of the unknown. Chosen one, your transformation is already happening. You may not fully see it yet, but the way you think is changing. The things you tolerate are changing. Your discernment is sharpening. Your hunger for peace is growing stronger than your desire to fit in. And that is evidence that heaven is rebuilding you from the inside out. One day people will look at your life and only see the strength, but they will never fully understand the private battles that created it. They will not see the lonely nights where you cried and prayed for our survival. They will not see the moments where you fought silent wars inside your mind. They will not see the seasons where God stripped away everything that distracted you from purpose. But heaven saw it all, and heaven used it all. Every heartbreak, every delay, every betrayal, every tear. None of it was wasted, because God was creating a version of you that could carry the assignment attached to your destiny without collapsing under pressure. So stop mourning the old version of yourself, chosen one. That person was only meant to survive the storm. The new version of you was created to walk in purpose, authority, and spiritual power. Chosen one, the reason God allowed you to walk through certain storms was because your assignment is connected to people who are still trapped in darkness. Your pain was never only about you. Your survival carries purpose far beyond what you can currently see. There are people you have not met yet who will one day hear your story and find strength to keep living. There are broken souls who will recognize God's power through the battles you overcame. And this is why the enemy fought so hard to destroy your spirit before you fully awakened to your calling. The enemy understood something you did not fully understand yet. Your voice carries power, not because you are perfect, not because you have never struggled, but because God anoints people who have survived deep pain without completely losing their faith. There is something spiritually powerful about a person who endured suffering yet still chose to keep walking with God. That kind of strength cannot be manufactured. It is built in hidden seasons, built through tears, built through betrayal, built through nights where your only source of strength was heaven itself. And maybe for years you questioned why your life seemed harder than the lives of people around you. Maybe you wondered why certain battles kept repeating, why misunderstandings followed you. why you constantly felt spiritually different from the environments around you. But chosen one, your life was never meant to be ordinary. Ordinary people do not carry the level of spiritual warfare you survived. The pressure on your life has always been connected to the purpose over your future, because the enemy knew that once you fully awakened to your assignment, your presence would begin shifting atmosphere. Res around you. Some people carry darkness when they enter rooms. You carry light, and light naturally disturbs darkness. That is why some people reacted strangely to you, even when your intentions were pure. Your spirit exposed things they wanted hidden. Your peace irritated people addicted to chaos. Your discernment made manipulative people uncomfortable, and instead of growing, some chose to attack you because your presence convicted them without words. But hear this carefully, chosen one, you are not called to spend your life explaining your worth to people determined to misunderstand you. Your assignment is too important for you to remain emotionally trapped by the opinions of others. God did not place purpose inside you just so you could waste your energy begging people to recognize your value. The time has come for you to fully accept who you are, not arrogantly, not pridefully, but spiritually. You are chosen, and chosen people often walk lonely roads before they walk powerful ones, because before God uses someone publicly, he develops them privately. That is why your hidden seasons mattered. That is why the isolation mattered. Heaven was building endurance inside you, building wisdom inside you, building discernment inside you. Because the assignment attached to your life requires spiritual maturity, not just emotional passion. Some of you are entering a season where God is going to use your testimony in ways you never imagined. The very pain you once tried to hide will become evidence of his power. The very wounds you cried over will become proof that healing is possible. One day people will look at your life and realize that only God could have carried you through everything you survived. And this is why you cannot quit now. You are too close to the breakthrough connected to your purpose. The enemy wants you exhausted because tired people stop believing. He wants you isolated because lonely people become easier to discourage. He wants you focused on your failures because distracted people rarely recognize their calling. But heaven is waking your spirit up now. God is reminding you that your story is not finished. The attacks did not destroy you. The betrayals did not destroy you. The delays did not destroy you. You are still here because grace kept protecting your assignment even when your strength became weak. Chosen one, there are gifts inside you that have not fully awakened yet. Gifts buried under fear. Gifts buried under self-doubt. Gifts buried under years of emotional survival mode. But God is about to pull those gifts into the light, and when that happens, your life will no longer revolve around merely surviving pain. Your life will begin impacting other people in powerful ways. You have spent too much time underestimating yourself because of what you endured. But your scars are not proof of weakness. They are proof that you survived battles designed to destroy you. Every scar carries wisdom now. Every painful season built spiritual depth inside you. And heaven intends to use every part of your journey for purpose. This next chapter of your life requires boldness. It requires obedience. It requires trusting God, even when the path feels uncertain. Because the assignment on your life is bigger than comfort. Some of you are being called to speak. Some are being called to lead. Some are being called to encourage. Some are being called to bring light into dark places where hopeless people are silently waiting for someone who understands their pain. And that someone may be you. Do you determine now why the enemy fought you so intensely? He was never only attacking your present. He was attacking the future impact of your life. But darkness failed. You survived. And because you survived, somebody else will survive too. That is the power of your assignment, chosen one. Your obedience could become the answer to another person's prayer. Your testimony could pull someone back from hopelessness. Your voice could remind broken people that God still heals, still restores, and still calls wounded people into purpose. So stop hiding your light. Stop minimizing your story. Stop doubting whether God can truly use you. Because heaven already decided your life has purpose long before your pain ever began. Chosen one, You are standing at the edge of a new season, and heaven is asking one final question before the next chapter begins. Are you ready to fully trust God with your life? Not partially, not only when things feel comfortable, but completely. Because the assignment attached to your destiny will require a level of faith you have never walked in before. And the reason this moment feels so intense is because your spirit can sense that something is changing. Ep down, you know you cannot return to the old version of yourself anymore. The old mindset no longer fits you. The old habits no longer satisfy you. The old environments no longer feel like home. And even though part of you feels uncertain about the future, another part of you feels something powerful awakening inside. That awakening is not imagination. It is the Spirit of God preparing you for elevation. But before elevation comes surrender. And surrender is difficult because it forces you to release control. For years, many of you tried to protect yourselves by controlling everything around you. You guarded your heart, you lowered expectations, you stopped trusting people easily. You prepared for disappointment before it even arrived because pain taught you to expect loss. But chosen one, living in constant fear of heartbreak, also blocks the fullness of faith. Fear keeps people emotionally imprisoned in places God already called them to leave, and maybe that has been your struggle lately. Part of you wants to believe again. Part of you wants to trust God fully again. But another part of you still remembers all the pain you survived. The betrayal, the disappointment, prayers that seemed delayed, and because of those experiences your spirit became cautious. You started expecting struggle instead of breakthrough. You started preparing for rejection instead of expecting favor. Without realizing it, survival mode became your normal. But heaven is saying this season must end now, because you cannot enter your next chapter carrying the mindset of someone who still believes they are defeated. Chosen one, you are not defeated. You are being prepared. There is a massive difference. Preparation often feels uncomfortable because God stretches people before he uses them. Think about every person in Scripture who carried a divine assignment. Noah built before the rain came. Abraham walked before seeing the promise. Moses wandered before leading. Jesus suffered before resurrection. The process was never easy, but the process always produced transformation. And now your process is producing transformation too. That is why you feel restless. That is why your spirit refuses to settle. That is why certain things no longer bring peace to your soul. God is pulling you toward purpose, even while fear tries to pull you backward into comfort. But commonly known as ought has become dangerous for your destiny. You have spent enough time doubting yourself, enough time shrinking your gifts, enough time questioning whether your life truly matters. It does matter. In fact, your obedience in this season could change generations connected to your future. Some blessings attached to your life are not only for you. They are connected to people heaven assigned you to impact. And that is why the enemy tried so hard to convince you that quitting would be easier. Because once a chosen person fully awakens to purpose, darkness loses influence over their direction. The enemy wanted your pain to make you bitter, but instead it made you wiser. He wanted your isolation to make you hopeless, but instead it pushed you closer to God. He wanted your suffering to silence your voice, but instead your testimony became stronger. And now the same person who once cried in secret is becoming spiritually powerful. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because God taught you how to survive storms without losing your soul. Chosen one, hear this clearly. Your future is not cursed. Your future is covered. God did not bring you this far just to abandon you. Now, every closed door, every delay, every painful lesson carried purpose. Even when you did not understand what heaven was doing, God was positioning things behind the scenes, protecting you from certain paths, redirecting you from certain people, building strength inside you before the weight of your assignment fully arrived. One day you will look back and realize that the seasons you called rejection were actually divine redirection. The relationships that ended were making space for healthier connections. The delays were developing patience. The silence was developing trust. And the loneliness was teaching you how to depend on God instead of constantly depending on people. Nothing was wasted. Not the tears, not the heartbreak, not the confusion, not even the waiting. Everything became part of your preparation. And now heaven is asking you to move forward without constantly looking behind you. Stop revisiting old wounds God is trying to heal. Stop carrying guilt from seasons that already ended. Stop identifying yourself by the worst moments of your life. You are no longer the broken person who entered the storm. You survived it, and survival changed you. There is authority growing inside your spirit now. There is discernment growing inside your spirit now. There is courage growing inside your spirit now. And soon, even the people who doubted you will notice the difference. They will see peace on your life that cannot be explained by circumstances. They will see confidence returning to your voice. They will see strength rising from places that once looked broken. Because when God restores a chosen person, the transformation becomes undeniable. So step into this next season boldly, chosen one. Pray boldly, trust boldly, speak boldly, walk boldly. Because heaven did not preserve your life this long for you to remain trapped in fear. Your assignment is still alive. Your purpose is still alive. And the same God who carried you through every dark season is about to reveal why you had to survive it all. Chosen one, the greatest battle of your life was never against people. It was against the voice inside you that kept whispering you were not enough. Long before the world saw your strength, you were fighting silent wars within your own mind, wars nobody else could hear. Moments where fear spoke louder than faith, moments where insecurity tried to convince you that your dreams were too big, your past was too messy, and your wounds were too deep for God to truly use you. And because those thoughts repeated themselves for so long, you slowly began questioning your own identity. But hear this carefully, the enemy's greatest weapon has always been deception. If he can make a chosen person forget who they are, then he can delay the assignment attached to their life. That is why so many of your battles happened internally. The enemy knew that if he could keep you emotionally exhausted, spiritually distracted, and mentally trapped in self-doubt, you would spend years surviving instead of walking boldly in purpose. And maybe that is exactly what happened. Maybe there were seasons where you became smaller just to avoid criticism. Seasons where you hid your gifts because you were afraid of rejection. Seasons where you tolerated disrespect because loneliness terrified you more than mistreatment. Seasons where you secretly settled for less because deep inside you no longer believed you deserved more. Chosen one, that was never God speaking over your life. God never called you weak. God never called you forgotten. God never called you worthless. Those lies were planted by pain, rejection, disappointment, and spiritual warfare designed to disconnect you from your true identity. Because once a chosen person fully recognizes their worth in God, everything changes. The fear loses power. The shame loses power. The opinions of people lose power. And suddenly the same person who once doubted themselves begins walking with spiritual authority. That is why heaven has been trying to heal your identity in this season. Not just your emotions, not just your circumstances, your identity. Because the way you see yourself determines how you walk through life. If you see yourself as broken, you will live beneath your calling. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will continue accepting less than what God intended for you. But when you finally see yourself the way heaven sees you, your entire spirit begins to rise. Chosen one, you have survived things that should have destroyed you emotionally. Some people would have completely collapsed under the weight you carried, yet somehow, through all the heartbreak and chaos, God kept preserving your spirit, not because you were always strong, but because His grace refused to let you fall apart completely. And now heaven is saying it is time for you to stop speaking against yourself, stop replaying old failures, stop defining yourself by past mistakes, stop looking at your scars as proof that you are damaged. Your scars are proof that you survived. There is power in survival. There is wisdom in survival. There is anointing in survival. Because people who survive deep pain often carry the deepest compassion. They understand brokenness. They understand loneliness. They understand spiritual warfare. And that understanding becomes part of their assignment. But first, you must stop rejecting yourself. Chosen one, many of you have spent years giving love to everyone except yourselves, encouraging everybody else while secretly tearing yourselves apart internally, smiling publicly while privately battling thoughts of inadequacy. You became your own harshest critic because life conditioned you to constantly feel like you needed to prove your value. But your value does not come from performance. Your value does not come from money. Your value does not come from how many people choose you. Your value was established the moment God created you. And nothing that happened to you changed that truth. Not betrayal, not failure, not rejection, not delay, not even the mistakes you regret. God still calls you chosen. Do you understand how powerful that is? Heaven looked at every broken part of your story and still decided you were worthy of purpose. That means your past cannot cancel your destiny. And the reason this message is reaching your spirit right now is because God is trying to awaken confidence inside you again. Not pride, not arrogance, holy confidence. The kind that comes from knowing who walks beside you. The kind that remains steady even when circumstances become uncertain. The kind that allows you to keep moving forward even while fear whispers in the background. Because courage does not mean fear disappears. Courage means you stop allowing fear to control your decisions. And chosen one, your future requires courage now. You cannot continue hiding from opportunities because of insecurity. You cannot continue silencing your voice because of fear of rejection. You cannot continue shrinking your light just to make insecure people comfortable. The world already has enough people pretending to be someone they are not. God is looking for people willing to walk authentically in their calling. And your authenticity carries more power than perfection ever could. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will doubt you. Some people will walk away from you. Let them. Because the people assigned to your destiny will recognize the light inside you without needing endless explanations. And the more you heal, the less you will chase validation from those incapable of giving healthy love. That is part of your transformation too. Chosen one, stop waiting for permission to become who God already called you to be. Stop asking the world to confirm what heaven already spoke over your life. You are not here by accident. You survived because purpose still breathes inside you. And now it